Thanks for tuning in to the Women's Vibrancy Code, a podcast dedicated to helping women move from exhausted to energized, balance their hormones, and feeling turned on by their life, their lover, and themselves. I'm your host, Maraya Brown. I'm a Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, midwife, mom, keynote speaker, and self-made entrepreneur. I'm the founder of my signature program, the Women's Vibrancy Code. So sit back, relax, and let's chat about your energy, hormones, libido, and embracing your feminine power. Oh, and you might want to have pen and paper to take some notes on some of these episodes. I have received so much positive feedback and remarks regarding past episodes around honoring our menstrual cycle, honoring our infradian rhythm, our 28-day rhythms, our moon cycle, our feminine power. There have been past episodes on those topics, and there's been so much resounding, yes, more of that, please. I thought, all right, let's dig into this. Let's have a conversation around the menstrual cycle. The one caveat is, even if you're not bleeding, if you have irregular menstrual cycles, if you're on contraception, if you're in perimenopause, if you're on the other side of menopause and no longer bleeding, I still want you to listen to this conversation. It's still relevant, okay? We still have these rhythms that often mirror a 28-day moon cycle. And so as we really pay attention to the changes in our energy level and our creativity and our desire to socialize and our need to kind of slow down and feel tired and our libido and all of those topics, they are rhythmic, okay? And so if you don't have a menstrual cycle to use to track, I encourage you to use the moon instead, okay? Pay attention to what's happening during full moon and what's happening during new moon, and you're gonna notice that there are some patterns here. Okay, so with that being said, let's kind of dig in. I'd like to break it into 4 sections, kind of how we think of 4 seasons: our winter, our spring, our summer, and our fall, okay? So if we're using the menstrual cycle, day 1 is the first day that we bleed. Okay, so let's say day 1, from day 1 to day 6 or 7 is our winter time. That's also our bleeding time, okay? For many, that's the full moon time. Then we move into springtime, which is also known as the follicular phase. Okay, it's the week after we bleed. It's the time where we are the most creative, and I'll get into that. It's the estrogen dominant time, and it's generally going to be from around day 6 to day 13 or so, right around there, assuming a 28-day cycle. Now, keep in mind, some women have a 26-day cycle. Others will have a 36-day cycle. Okay, there's no perfect here. And there's some where it's haphazard, erratic, okay? With that being said, the more that we pay attention, the more we're going to be aware of what is happening within our bodies, and we can make changes. We can make changes to how we exercise, how we eat, how we socialize, how we do work, what we expect of ourselves in our relationships. And for the men listening to this, the more you can understand where, if you're in a heterosexual relationship, the more you understand where your female partner is in her cycle, it really helps you to preemptively know how to best support her, how to address conversations, what to expect. And also, you know, depending on fertility and your libido and your sexual relationship, there's factors there. Okay, so then we move into our ovulatory phase. So we have winter and spring. Ovulatory, I think of summer. I'll break all these down. So ovulatory phase is going to be from around day 13, sometimes day 12, until say day 16, okay? That is summertime. That is when we ovulate. That is when our hormones are at their peak. And then we move into fall time. Fall time is going to generally be from around day 16, 17, even 18, right around there, until the day 28, or the last day of our menstrual cycle. And then we start again and we go back to bleeding. Okay, so we have these 4 chapters. We have these 4 seasons. I also want you to think of kind of the inhale and the exhale. the extroverted exhale, the introverted inhale. Okay. So during our springtime and our summertime, we are exhaling. We are out in the world. Our confidence is big. We are resilient when it comes to exercise and cardiovascular movement and big weight building. It is the time to send it is the time to send creative ideas out into the community. Like throw popcorn at the wall, throw noodles at the wall, right? Brainstorm with your team. Send ideas out to your friends. Okay. This is the time where we tend to feel resilient. As we progress through spring and into summer, our confidence builds, our libido builds, our Teflon suit, so to speak, is strong. So we don't take things as personally. Our inner critic is not there with such a vengeance. Okay. So our springtime and our summertime, as that kind of half of the menstrual cycle, is a great time to just brainstorm. Okay. Now, second half of the cycle, okay, that inhale, okay, we are going inside. We are more introspective. Okay. This is the time where our inner critic is fierce. We're a little bit less resilient. This is the time when we maybe, especially during fall time, we'll be communicating and kind of brainstorming with others, but it's really our inner counsel. We're bringing it in. Okay. The leaves are falling. The weather's getting colder. We're putting on layers. Okay. We're celebrating Thanksgiving and into Christmas time, right? We're kind of bringing it in and we're listening a little bit more inside, or with those of us that are truly our inner counsel. Okay. This is a time during our fall time. That's when progesterone builds. So once you've ovulated, ovulation is considered the main event. That's what produces progesterone. Okay. Progesterone hides in the context of stress. Okay. This is not the time to push yourself with cardiovascular exercise, to push yourself with intermittent fasting, to push yourself with heavy weightlifting. Okay. During fall time and winter time, it's the time to do a little bit more subtle, nurturing movement. Okay. Nurturing relationships, nurturing foods, meaning our steamed veggies, our soups, our spices that are warming, like our cinnamons and our ginger. Okay. And once again, for those listening, even if you're not ovulating, what is spectacular is when you still keep this rhythmic nature in place. It is amazing to see what women come back and say to me. They say things like, I feel more centered. My sadness has gone away. My anxiety has gone away. I feel more present in my relationships. My marriage is healthier. Okay. For those that are still bleeding, I hear things like, my menstrual cycle isn't as crampy. I'm not bleeding so heavy. It's not taking me down. Okay. And for those in this like transitional phase of perimenopause, the more you honor this rhythmic nature, it is spectacular to see what shifts in how your body transitions into menopause. It will be more graceful and resilient and celebratory as you honor this. For the women listening that are in your 20s, oh my gosh. I was just interviewed on a podcast this week and they asked, if you could go back, what's one thing you would change? And I go, I wish I really would have understood this early on and embodied it. My oldest daughter is 9, and I'm currently communicating with some other mothers. We're trying to create like a cohesive mother-daughter project, where as our daughters start preparing for and end up starting their moon cycle, starting bleeding, starting menstruating their period, how can we help them start learning this stuff early on in a safe container with mothers and with aunties? And so it is so important and valuable. Okay, so let me get into a bit more specifics. Okay, so now in our winter time, our bleeding time, often either full moon or new moon, this is the time to rest. Like really, truly create spaciousness, to rest. Listen into your intuition, go inside. For those of you that are listening that are like, rest, what is that? I run a business, I have children, I have a household, I volunteer here. Like, where does rest come in? It's little moments. Can you just find 1%, 5% of your schedule where you go, is that something that is absolutely necessary, or can I reschedule it for next week? Okay. Can I reduce buffers and a little bit of time with how long my meetings are, or how long my workout is, or what I do for food prep, how I ask for help, to bring in a bit more of me time, a bit more boundary setting, to create time for stillness and rest. Alison Armstrong talks about the value for women to have time and space to putter. Like, no agenda, nowhere to be, nothing to do, television off, phone hidden, just to potentially do nothing, to sit, to go on a walk. More of like a Shinrin Yoku yin walk, like slow, not I'm going to go force my way up a mountain, just a gentle walk where you're paying attention and you're listening. If you're inside, you're going to putter, right? Do you have 5 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? Do you have an hour? Do you have 3 hours? What do you have? And can you just allow yourself to flow? Okay. During our bleeding time, it is the time that our intuition is the most connected. It's the most connected to one another as uterus holders, womb holders, women, biologically women, like the bodies that were born with a uterus. It is the time that we are most in tune with broader universe, God, whatever that may be. And so it's a time to listen in. Okay. It goes a long way to have space. Now, the fascinating thing is, in the conversation of intermittent fasting, there is some resiliency. I've worked with women with endometriosis or really, really heavy menstrual bleeds, and they find that if they do even a 72-hour fast while bleeding, they have great symptom improvement. And so I'm not opposed to doing kind of extended fasting or pushing kind of the envelope from a nutrition standpoint during your bleeding time. But during your fall time, really, truly, progesterone needs carbohydrates, okay? It's not the time to continue that keto, only fat protein space. We want lots of fruits and vegetables. We want healthy carbohydrates and grains. That doesn't mean you go binge, but your healthy grains go a long way when you're in your fall time, or what's called your luteal phase or your PMS phase, okay? During your bleeding time, it is the time to listen in. What are the desires that come out of you? Do you want to change your relationship? Do you want to move? Do you want to change careers? Do you want to hire someone new? Do you have some new creative idea, a new book you want to write? Whatever it is, it's a really potent time to listen in and pay attention. Doesn't necessarily mean you make decisions during that time, but you pay attention. Then as we move into our springtime, our follicular phase, our estrogen dominant time, estrogen is proliferative. It builds. Okay. So this is the time to start brainstorming, throw out those creative ideas, go start doing the muscle building activities, push yourself physically, eat lots of protein and fat, push yourself with intermittent fasting, push yourself with keto diet if that's the route you want to take, or full paleo. Okay. And allow yourself to send out those rockets of desire. Brainstorm with everyone that you can. Kind of, you don't have to have a whole lot of discernment, because you have great resiliency. It won't really matter what they say. You won't take it so personally. And then when you go into your summertime, that's the time, if you feel ready, that you send it out into action. Okay. You start the book, you publish the book, you do the TED Talk, you're up on stage, you start meeting with realtors and going and really starting putting things in action. You start really seriously talking about a move, or you take the leap, whatever it may be. Our summertime is that time to do it. It's also the time where hormones are the strongest. So our estrogen is high, our testosterone is high, our progesterone is high. We're confident, we have energy, our libido is strongest, our pheromones are strong, our magnetic energy will be palpable by others. and we're ready to conquer the world. From an exercise perspective, that's the time you can do the heaviest weight, but you want to do slow movements because estrogen is so high. It can impact ligament and tendon resiliency. So you don't necessarily want to do high weight fast. Okay. Higher weight fast is better during your springtime. So ovulatory time, summertime, we put it into action. For those of you that aren't bleeding, you're paying attention to, there's the pattern. I feel consistently during that time more confident, more sexy, don't have bloating. I feel ready to put things into action. Well, yes, that makes sense. And you'll notice it will often mirror the new moon or the full moon. Okay. And then when we're in the luteal phase, or our PMS time, or our fall time, okay, this is the time where our inner critic comes out with a vengeance. Okay. Our inner critic is there for good reason. Okay. She is there to offer discernment. She is there to allow space for us to take things personally if they're not really aligned. Okay. And it's often the time where we have more bloating, headaches, the viper comes out, we feel more irritable. And so we get to start bringing it in. Okay. More with those that we love, more with inner counsel, our warming foods. And in the midst of relationships, we preemptively go, okay, is this the best time to have this charged conversation? Okay. For the men listening, is where your female partner is in the midst of their menstrual cycle, and they're in their PMS time, you go, okay, she's going to take things a little bit more personally. She's going to react differently. So I am prepared as the male counterpart here to not respond, to allow myself to take a breath and go, okay, I can do the same thing in a week and she's not going to be responding the same way. I can fold the towels and put them in the wrong drawer and it's going to roll off her back. But this week I have to be prepared. She's going to be a little bit more irritable. And so how do I, as the husband or the male partner in this heterosexual scenario, be prepared for it and offer just a little bit more nurturing? Okay. Women love to feel heard and seen. Okay. This is a time to have the listening ear. This is the time to offer a bit more support. This is the time, if you know your partner's love language, to really make sure you're speaking in her love language if you feel ready for it. And hopefully she offers you the appreciation that you're longing for, and you still are able to feel like you're getting things done and being the doer, the helper, the fixer. And I know those are kind of broad kind of categories, and there's so much flexibility within this. Every once in a while, I have a woman that comes to me and she says, I feel like crap during my ovulation. And we go, okay, for some reason, your body reacts very differently to estrogen. Let's look under the hood and figure out what's going on. Is there estrogen dominance? Is there a quote unquote issue in how your body methylates and what pathway it sends that estrogen down? Okay. Is the testosterone going down more the alpha or adrenergic pathway, and it's not feeling fun? So we can go in and support your methylation and your detoxification pathways subtly with some nutrition change and personalized supplementation to buffer that. So hopefully we get to feel spectacular throughout the month, but also feel different. Because during the luteal phase, which is the fall time, which is the PMS time, we feel different. Okay. We are not meant to fit into a 9-to-5 box as women and expect ourselves to perform the same, act the same, desire the same all month long. It's just not a reality. We have menstrual cycles, we have rhythms. And for those of you that are like, I don't want to bleed, I'm just going to pretend it's not there. I'm going to go on contraception because I don't want to bleed. Well, those rhythms are still happening. Okay. We don't get to deny it. And you might buffer it slightly by bringing in exogenous, meaning outside the body, pharmaceutical estrogen and progesterone. Okay. That's a whole nother conversation. For those of you that are in my space a lot, I'm not a big fan of progestin. I am a big advocate of taking control of our fertility. So if you know you don't want to get pregnant, that's a whole conversation. But the progestin in most contraception that is hormonal really sends our adrenals into hyperdrive and has a lot of long-term negative repercussions. Okay, so if you are on contraception simply because you don't want to have a menstrual cycle, I urge you to reconsider that. Reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. Okay, trying to think if there's anything else I want to add. I think the biggest piece is just to remind all of us that we are spectacular. We are dynamic, ever-changing beings for those that have bodies where we were born with a uterus. And even those that weren't born with a uterus, but right now I'm speaking about this rhythmic menstrual cycle. And so I'm really speaking to the woman who is born with a uterus and still has it. And honestly, even if your uterus has been removed, if your ovaries are still intact and you're not going through a transgendered hormonal shift, if your ovaries are still intact, you're still having the rhythmic nature of that estrogen and testosterone and progesterone happening. And it is real, it is biologic, and it drastically impacts how you exist in the world. Okay, so our creativity during springtime is more external, it's the exhale. Our creativity during fall time is more internal, it's the inhale. Our intuition is the most potent during the winter time, our bleeding time, and the time to be fully out in the world is during our ovulatory time, our summertime. Okay, this is one of those I would love your thoughts, your responses. What does this bring up in you? Do you have additional questions? You are welcome to reach out to me. I am very approachable, predominantly in Facebook and Instagram. Just find me, Maraya Brown. In Instagram, there's an underscore at the beginning and the end. So @_Maraya Brown _ and it's Maraya. Find me, reach out to me, send me a DM and ask your questions. Let me know how this resonates. Does it trigger you? In what ways does it trigger you? What additional questions do you have that come up? And also, how are you implementing this in how you exist in your relationships, your business, your community, your nutrition, your body movement, your creativity, your sexuality, your expectations of yourself, how you mother? It's all relevant. It's all very important for us to fully embody this. And it is spectacular what's on the other end. So with that, I'm grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for being present for yourself and listening in. Thank you for receiving this. And until next time, Maraya Brown here, Yale and functional medicine trained women's health expert, 23 years in supporting women in lots of different spaces, and a nurse practitioner since 2007. But most of all, I work online at this point, supporting thousands of women across multiple continents that are ambitious and want to feel completely and utterly spectacular and vibrant. And for the male counterparts that are supporting your women and you are listening into this, thank you. Thank you for listening. You're also welcome to reach out to me. May we all, I was just talking with someone, there was a UN slogan that said he for she, okay? You too get to honor your needs and desires, because what I know is when you grow and support the women around you, the aunties, the mothers, the friends, the coworkers, and we get to have more synergy in honoring our dynamic nature, right? The banks of the river versus the water. The masculine being the banks, the water being the feminine. We all have both. We all have masculine and feminine. But the more that we allow powerful, ambitious women to at times exist in the banks, in the logic, in the doing, right? And also allow a lot of spaciousness for flow and feminine dynamic change and feeling, and more circular versus linear. I believe a rising tide lifts all boats, and we all lift. We all lift as a society. So anyway, I think you're all awesome. Here we go. Ciao, ciao to all. With that, I close this out.